I am Dawna Tanner, Blue Bear Farm and Cattle Co. is what we call ourselves. We added the Cattle Co. because in these parts, if you just say farm, folks think that you're doing row crops. So we wanted to make sure that people knew we had cattle.
Well, this is definitely not the row crop place. Now I'm looking over here at this gorgeous mural, which is again the Blue Bear. While he's getting a shot of that, would you tell me, why did you name it Blue Bear? Do you have blue bears in Georgia? Maybe you do.
No, we don't. But black bears are indigenous to Florida and or this area, South Georgia, is where we are right now. And it's kind of an interesting story. There was a lot of wine involved, but.
And hopefully a bear.
But you know, bears were here, and we have another painting inside that is of a black bear, but it's got a lot of blue in it. And they're also, they represent, to Native American people, they represent in terms of being a symbol of medicine and the plants, the diversity of plants and their medicinal uses. And we wanted something whimsical, but yet a little bit of a spiritual side to it. And we're not Native Americans, but we have a great affinity for their way of life. And so we sort of put some things together, and we came up with Blue Bear. And it's been just perfect for us.
Yeah, this is definitely a place where it feels like you're getting back to something earthy. Is it? Earthy is almost the wrong word.
No, earthy is the perfect word, because that's our goal, is to take this back to a more natural state. Because when we found this place, it was just a hayfield. And it was being sprayed, chemicals, they had trucks coming in dumping nitrogen, and he was growing, the guy that leased the land was growing hay, so he needed all of these inputs. And we knew immediately that was not good for the biology in the soil and just nature in general. And so we've flipped that quickly, and as a result, we now have quail, we have turkey, we have deer, we have pollinators, we have birds coming back that we didn't see when we first stepped foot on this land. So it's been a great transition.
Well, I'm hearing that.
Yes, and
your
we've
husband's
got
going
to
to come
get
yell
over
at us,
there.
isn't he?
Right, we're going to go through
fence.
this gate up here and go into where the cattle are, because we're going to take down one line, put up another. We do this mostly in the afternoons, but today we saved it for you. We're going to put up a new line, and we're going to move them that direction. They've been over on this side, and now they're going to get another swath that goes up beyond this one.
So there's your hubby. You want to introduce him, if you would?
That's Mike Tanner. Yes. Okay, I told you. This is Miranda. So we're going to do what?
So I've got these two out already. I'm going to go ahead and string up this new line. We're
Okay.
Take this line. This is a polywire, thin, lightweight polywire, and we're going to run it all the way down to a point down straight there on the fence. And so we'll be able to get a char. And then when we do that, we'll show you, we're going to take that line down, and they'll run into the new pasture.
So you want me to follow you with stakes?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what we'd like to have you point out, look like that. There. So, ready?
can't see very well.
I know. Just keep going.
Okay.
You're going. All right. You're doing good.
In one place. And that is the very end. Here, Dawna, Yeah.
pull this one a little closer so that I need a little more line here.
Okay.
That's good, right there. That's perfect.
Man, once it dries out a little bit, it's harder to get these in the ground.
Yep.
We got a lot more work to do.
You want to go ahead?
Let him in. Why don't we let him in right here?
Let's let him in right here. Take that off and just walk it back.
Yeah. Oh boy. Nope, nope, you're gonna have to come down here. Nope, 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 nope. You know this fence is unplugged, don't you? Okay, and we're gonna close them back off from this so they don't back graze. And I lost my little hook out here somewhere. Oh, the crimson clover.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
You picking me up, Rick? Okay. All right. So it's funny because you talked about when you were talking about in the very beginning, you're taking over this farm and bringing it back, the
Right.
regenerative portion. You
Right.
talked about the nitrogen that they dumped on here, and I'm laughing because I'm not an expert, but you've got at least two
Tons
kinds
of
of clover,
clover.
and isn't clover a nitrogen fixer? Doesn't it
It
kind
is.
of
Yes,
for
it
you?
is.
Excellent, yes.
So, did you plant that, or was that
None.
here before? And if it was here before, why are they putting nitrogen on there?
Great question. Some of the clover we did seed 4 or 5 years ago, but we just did a little bit of it. Most of what you see, the white clover, this arrow leaf clover, is natural in the seed bank here. It's a perennial. It comes out every year, and we've not had to do anything to, encourage that growth. The crimson clover is all natural here, which is remarkable. And then we've got other kinds of clover. There's some yellow clover down in here, not this. This is a wild turnip, which they don't like to eat. But
Yeah,
but
they were running a truck with synthetic nitrogen to basically for the grass. And they were putting other chemicals on here to kill things in the grass that they didn't want in the grass because they wanted it pure. Because hay farmers like beautiful pure hay because they can sell it for more, and that's what horse people want. And we have a lot of horse farmers in this area, and so that was their goal, not to let Mother Nature come back with the seed bank that's already here, with all these what they would call weeds, but they wanted just pure, beautiful grass. And when we first came here, this grass that you see right here, this is the Bahia, right? We had Bahia.
Oh, that's Bermuda grass.
Oh, okay, Bermuda, and we had Bahia
There's
too.
some Bahia out here too.
But it was just a field of that with very little. I mean, there were some spots where you would see a little bit of crimson clover, but not much. Everything else was just this grass.
And you would see, I'm sorry.
That's what he
didn't mean to
wanted.
interrupt.
No, you got it.
Well, and you would look down. If from a distance, it would look like it would look like that. But if you walked up to it and looked down, you would see bare ground among the strands of grass, because the stalks of grass, because they had killed everything else.
Isn't that ironic? It's sort of like life, right? We want the sameness now in our big production.
Absolutely.
We want everything to look exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah, I think that maybe part of what you're talking about is what's called the no-till farming.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, that's row cropping, and they do put chemicals on, I think, but they're no longer tilling and disturbing the soil, so you don't get all that dust and erosion, and they're just letting the organic matter decompose on the soil. So it does help for the reasons you said, but it also, if you've got a lot of chemical inputs, that defeats that purpose a little bit.
So in a way, you're sort of doing a modified version of that particular thing, because you are not taking everything down to the nub, right? How long do you leave the cattle on a particular strip? Because you've got these going in nice little strips, right? This is not just for the ease of moving the wire, right?
That's the best way to do a temporary wire, is to make it straight. Because if you turn, you can run into issues. But as I said, we've got to get them back to shade and water in this area, because we have no trees out here. So how long do we leave them on here? About a day. We move them usually between 5 and 6 every day. So that's why they were a little bit anxious this morning.
5 and 6 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate you waiting for that.
We waited until today for you, yes.
Well, it's a very interesting thing. When you look at the field, and the cattle just are standing out there, it's one thing. But when you actually see on a line the space between the grazed and the ungrazed, it's actually pretty remarkable.
It really is. So I don't know if Rick can pan the camera, but what we're seeing right here and over there, this looked like that a day ago.
And how long before it will look like this yet
again?
Well, that's interesting, because I was telling Michael, I was walking out there yesterday, and I think we've had 5 or 6 swaths here, and I was on the first one over, and you can already see the grass starting to come back. Not so much the clover, because we're getting toward the end of the clover season, but the grass is going to start popping out now, and you can see it growing back on that edge.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, the recommended rest period is anywhere from 21 to 30 days now, and that depends on where you are, what area of the country your farm's in, what the rainfall is like, and all of that. So we probably won't let these pastures rest for that long, maybe a couple of weeks. I mean, we'll just see.
We're as you know, we've got our steers and our bull in a full, maybe, how many acres is that? A couple acres over there? 4 or 5 acres?
They're in about a 7-acre pasture right now.
Which is a little more than they need, but we're not going to segregate that one. They're not going to eat that much that quickly.
Right.
So we can move them more easily, and they won't graze it down. So.
And we can move them less frequently, from paddock to paddock.
Right.
Same with the heifer herd. It's a smaller herd, and so we don't have to move them. But this whole field is like 25 acres, and we have not really known what to do with it. And so we've sort of let them roam the first couple of years, which was a bad idea, because we weren't equipped. They do. We weren't equipped to exactly right.
To move them and figure out the shade issue, and we're sort of now we're getting a handle on that.
We had hoped that they would eat this yellow, it's called brassica. Like I said, it's a part of the turnip family. And you see it a lot in this area. We've got some of it in all of our pastures a little bit. We were hoping they'd eat it, but they haven't. They haven't taken the bait.
So yeah, if you can see those beautiful little flowers, but
Yeah.
every single one of those pods is going to end up receiving.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, exactly
Yeah,
right.
we've done a little selective mowing on this to knock it down, but there's little
Yeah.
patches here and there.
It has a bitter taste, you know, even to us, and so probably it tastes that way to them too, so that's why they don't eat it.
Okay, so how long did it take before and after? So how long have you had this farm?
11 years.
Yeah, we bought it in 2013.
Yeah, 11 years. But we didn't get cattle until 2018 because it took us, we went through a phase to get the infrastructure in, and we were still working, and so we just get up here, you know, not as often as we wanted to, and then we built the barn so we could live in that while we built the house. And it took some time, and we have kind of a crazy situation where we were going to Devon conferences. We went for like 4 years in a row, I think.
People like Jeremy probably thought we were just groupies. You
Yeah.
know, we would go
They love the groupies,
and
I
they would
think.
say, you know, oh, there are those people again.
They don't have
no
any
cows.
cattle.
And
No,
so-
no, I would bet you that's how you either start from the cradle
Yeah.
or you're a groupie. I
Yeah.
would bet
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot in between.
Probably
Yeah.
not. That's probably
Yeah.
true.
But that means you thought about it a little bit.
we
We
did.
did.
Yeah.
So-
A lot of
so-
research, a lot of
a lot
study.
of research.
Yeah, so why did you even, how did you get aware of Devons?
I discovered them through the Livestock Conservancy because I was looking for the kind of dog that my grandfather used to have. It was an English Shepherd, and I was
of
looking
them
for
right
those.
there.
We've got two now, and I saw an ad for Devons in there and read a little bit about them and reached out to a local breeder in Dixie, Georgia, and we went out to see his. His name is Jeff Moore. Hugely helpful to us getting started. Mentoring, came out and helped us do soil tests and all kinds of things. He was super. He is super. But he was the one who encouraged us to go to that Devon conference the first year, and we did. We met so many amazing folks and learned about their cattle and heard so much discussion about how easy they are to work with and how docile. You'll hear that term over and over again. And at our age, we thought that's what we
Yeah,
should.
you don't want to.
We're going to
We
get
want to enjoy this. We don't want to get out here and be injured.
get hurt. Yes.
You know, and there's some breeds that are more, less docile. Let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I was walking along almost all of them were just fine with me as I was walking along.
Yeah.
One of them, she eyed me a little bit, but boy, I had this little fuzzy thing that looks like a raccoon, and I'm putting it at predator height, right?
Yeah.
Right here around the waist, and so she kind of eyed me, but other than that, well, it's like whatever. Do
Yeah.
your thing.
They are very docile creatures. They would never intentionally hurt you, but you have to remember they're a 1,000-pound animal,
Yep.
and they could inadvertently, particularly if they get spooked.
Yeah.
You know, they could.
Respect the fence, respect
Yeah.
the cow, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's-
Yes.
Yep.
We do.
So when you started out with Devons, I'm assuming that you became members of the organization, and
We did.
Yeah.
We joined right away because we knew that was kind of the direction we were headed. And we wanted to be on their mailing list. We wanted to know what was going on. So we joined and then went to, like I said, I think 3 more conferences. And finally, we were able to say, yes, we have cattle now. We had crossbred at that point. We bought 4 bred mama cows and with their calves at side. So we went from 8 to 12 pretty quick. But that was a good place for us to start because we weren't, I mean, I'd been on my grandparents' farm as a child and loved that and wanted that lifestyle, but we didn't have any real experience with cattle, so.
Well, you did. Don't be.
Well, I
you're
mean,
being very modest.
no.
Dawna spent a lot of time on her grandfather's cattle farm in Oklahoma as a child and as a young adult. So she had worked cattle and was around
I had
them.
a little bit of experience.
She's being
but not-
modest.
well, whatever.
She had more than a little.
well, but we didn't really talk about you, either of you in your existence. So if you had to tell me the elevator speech on where you came from and what you did until you came here, what would that be? Oklahoma?
Well, yeah, well, I was born in Texas, and my father was in the Air Force, so we traveled around quite a bit and lived in Oklahoma, which is where my grandparents were, and then we were in England for a little bit and came back to the States, and I kind of followed the path that was expected, and that is you go to college and you get a degree and you look for a real job and
Degree in, my husband tells me
humanities.
Florida's involved Florida State, is that
Yeah,
right?
Florida
Okay.
State. I got a degree in humanities and kind of specializing in Renaissance art history. Thinking
Oh boy, you know,
I know,
Yeah.
I
my
know.
first class.
A lot of employment
But it's
opportunities
great.
there.
It tells you a lot about life.
It
Art
does.
is a reflection
It
of us
does.
culturally, is
It's-
it not
yeah.
across the world?
Yeah.
And so it gets a
teaches
little
you
bit of
so
politics,
much,
a
yes.
little bit of finance, a little bit of all of those things come in our
Balance
history.
and symbolism
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
mythology.
We still have a lot
and-
of Donna's old textbooks
Yeah,
in
of
our
course.
library.
We have all of them and all my class notes.
Yeah, oh,
Much as
God.
I love it, though.
refuse to part with those.
Yeah, no, it doesn't exactly pay the mortgage always, though,
No.
does it?
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I ended up working for an association for several years. That it was the Bar Association in Florida, which I really loved because it introduced me to a whole different kind of lifestyle. And you know, you go through college and you're living in a bubble, and then you get out in the real world, and it was a great experience. And eventually met Michael that way, so that was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But always wanted to get back to
Yep.
something like this.
And your grandfather raised what?
He raised Herefords.
My dad did too.
Yeah.
Hereford
yeah.
Congress.
Yeah. And he had some later in his later years. He had some Brangus and you know, kind of a mixture of things, but primarily Herefords in the early days. And but I used to always. I'd watch him as he got older, and I noticed he was always counting his cows, and I thought, you know, why are you counting them? I want to make sure they're all here. And I do the same thing now. It's interesting that you realize that that's kind of important, that they're all accounted for.
It's soothing, isn't it?
And if you are missing one, you think, okay, what's going on? And then eventually we hear this mooing from the woods, and we know somebody's gotten outside the fence.
Okay, so now she led over to your early years very nicely. Thank you for this.
You're
segue.
welcome.
Yes.
Yep. Well, I was a lawyer and still a
I
lawyer,
am so sorry.
practicing.
Oh,
I did corner party for a couple
there
years.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So
There
you
are good
know.
ones in the world,
There are good ones in the world.
and he's one of the finest.
Oh, well,
Laws are
you're-
what make us a society that can live with each other.
Yes.
That's
theoretically,
exactly
right?
right. I mean,
Yes.
look, you know, we had some friends over for dinner recently, and we got into this same discussion with them, and they're wonderful, wonderful people in the profession. You know, like every institution or group of people or organization, you know, it's a human endeavor, and so there are imperfections in it. But the folks that I've been privileged to work with have been, you know, very fine people. And I'm still licensed and practicing in Florida. I'm not licensed in Georgia and have never practiced up here, but less and less now.
We're transitioning him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting to me when attorneys get into ranching. I mean, you said laws. We talked about laws as being the thing that kind of helps us live together. But when you think about nature, it's kind of an interesting thing. You have these things that seem to be absolute. We push the margins. We try and figure out what's where and how it works, and then we try and kind of push the edges out. Do you see a parallel with both how you run this
Well, they're
place
both,
and
you know, they're
law?
both chaotic systems in a way.
Yeah, they
You know, I mean, really, they are.
And complex.
And complex. I mean, I feel like what we do out here is radically different than the corporate world. You know, and I guess theoretically there are some parallels, but you know, being in the legal world for all those years, it was so different than this. And I tell people, you know, the intellectual challenge of the law is still very interesting to me, and it is, I think, to hopefully everybody who's still in it. But the science out here is equally interesting, I think. The science of land management and the science of animal management. People think you just, you know, buy some land and throw some cows out on it. There's a lot more to this, and it's quite complex, and we're still on a real steep learning curve. And that's why we go to conferences. That's why we belong to a group like the Devon association because we learn constantly from those folks. So
you say radically different, but it's really truly ironic to me that we did agriculture the same way basically for thousands of years,
yep,
right?
That's
and then
right.
we went to this whole different thing in the last couple of centuries. I mean, obviously plow comes in, and, there's different things that come in, but basically the same for a really long period of time. And then we changed it all in the name of progress. And now we're finding that some people are really saying, you know what's smarter to go back. It's just more efficient to go back to the way we used to do it in many ways.
More healthful too for the land and the animals and the people.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the
you're
beef
right.
we consume, whatever the product is, whether it's produce or it's meat like pork or chicken or beef. If it's raised in a pastured setting, it's better for the animals. It's better for the product and better for us as consumers to ingest.
And it was relatively recently. It was World War II that changed everything. I mean, if you go back and look at the way farms were being managed in the 30s and the 1920s and 1930s, I mean, like Dawna said, or maybe you said it, there were tractors and there were technological changes, but it was more or less the way farming had always been done. It was only with the, World War II and the need for a lot greater output that all the
and the introduction of fertilizers
that all the industrialization started.
So you both have decided to live in this place. I've been reading a little bit on your website. Live in this place with a couple of different fundamental principles that almost seem like a moral imperative to me, but also kind of recognizing the fundamental scientific principles. One of them is the humane sourcing and of how you treat your cattle. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we've gotten certified, which tells you a lot, by an organization called A Greener World, which was really important to us to have an objective third party come in and say you're doing this right or you're not, because they've got I don't know what size their staff is, but they're all folks who really understand and appreciate what it means to farm regeneratively. And so we sought the grass-fed, grass-finished certification and the animal welfare. Those two were significant. And one of the things that they do so well is they educate consumers about what it means to farm regeneratively and what animal welfare means and what pasture-raised meat is all about. So that's been something that has guided us. You go through that process and you learn so much. And we're constantly we're students at heart in all things. So we're always curious about how things work and how things should work and whether we're doing it right. And that particular group has been very meaningful to us to help us take this on a new course.
Just in terms of the pasture, just take a look at that pasture right there as an example.
Yeah, the one that's beyond the fence line.
Yeah, beyond the fence line with the trees in it. Now that was full, literally full of dog fennel up to here. It was a mess. And there was very little grass in it. And we could not graze animals in there. And now look at it. It's not perfect. It looks pretty good here from a distance, but it's coming back.
And we've got others that we could say the same thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of pastures around here like that, but that one is right here, so I just thought I'd mention it.
That it's just changed over time.
Yeah.
Gives you kind of hope, doesn't it?
It does.
It gives you lots of hope.
It does.
It's just,
well,
it's amazing.
They say that the regenerative farming mimics what happened on the Great Plains, with the herds of hoofed animals that would come along, and you see that here in a kind of microcosm of it. But that pasture, I think, is a perfect illustration of that, demonstration of it.
Well, I'm so glad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
been a pleasure. We've really enjoyed it.
Well, we'll let you walk back so we can get your shoes clean.
So I can get my shoes clean.
Let's do that.
I'm